Do you really think that familiar item you just tossed into your Walmart cart is actually worth what you're paying for it? Walmart employees know exactly what customers buy most often, and they've seen plenty of people fall into bad choices just because they think they're saving money. Some items look like a good deal, but according to those who work there, there are certain foods they would never bring home, no matter how big the discount. Prices are climbing every single day. And to keep some products looking affordable, manufacturers have made trade-offs, sometimes in ways you wouldn't even notice right away. In this video, we're going to break down 10 food items at Walmart that the employees themselves say you should leave on the shelf. Some of these might surprise you, because chances are you've bought them more than once. Canned tuna. At Walmart, canned tuna is one of those items you can toss into your cart without even thinking. It sits there on the bottom shelf. Small, tidy cans, cheap-looking, harmless enough. At just a couple of dollars, it's a familiar go-to for families trying to stretch every penny. But if you've ever cracked open a can with that strange, fishy smell, mushy flakes that feel like they've been ground up or cloudy, slimy liquid inside, you'll understand why some longtime Walmart employees quietly avoid this product altogether. Tuna used to be the definition of convenience. Easy to store, easy to prepare, no fridge needed, no complicated cooking required. But lately, things have changed. One of the clearest signs is what's inside the can. The fish is suddenly skimpier, the flavor is blander, and the texture isn't as firm. And the reason isn't hard to guess. Since shipping costs and import tariffs have soared, manufacturers have been scrambling to keep prices from breaking the ceiling. The simplest solution: cut the quality. Instead of large, firm cuts of tuna, you're now getting scraps, finely shredded, packed with extra brine to fill the can. You still see 5 ounces printed on the label, but the amount of edible fish is far less than it used to be. And the source of that fish? Not always clear. Some brands sold at Walmart source from countries with looser regulations. The label still says packed in USA, meaning it was canned here. But where the fish came from, how it was caught, whether preservatives were used, that part is rarely spelled out. The tricky part is you can't tell any of this just by holding the can. Every one of them looks the same. The difference only shows up after you get home, pop the lid, and sometimes after you've already taken a bite. Not every can is bad, but in a time when every dollar counts, it's worth thinking twice. Cheap doesn't always mean good. Sometimes the cheapest thing you buy ends up costing you more. In health, in peace of mind, and in the simple meal that should have been better than this. Walmart deli meats. They're usually found near the back of the store. The chilled section, bright white lighting, slices of meat neatly arranged in clear plastic trays. A pack of ham, a few slices of seasoned rotisserie chicken, or deli cuts proudly labeled fresh daily. The price isn't outrageous, the packaging looks clean. And for many shoppers, it's the kind of no-brainer purchase. But there's a reason why some longtime employees quietly take a wide detour around that section when shopping for their own families. First, there's the question of what's really inside. Not every pack is sliced off a whole cut of meat. Many of the cheaper deli meats are actually ground up meat scraps, pressed into molds shaped and flavored to look like real slices. You think you're eating a proper slice of ham, but in reality it's a blend. Bits and pieces mixed with stabilizers and additives to hold the color and shape. Then comes the issue of storage. Even when it's wrapped tightly, deli meat has to sit in cold storage for days. And that sell by today sticker doesn't always mean it's truly fresh. Some employees have quietly admitted that certain products get rotated, repackaged, and relabeled, as long as they're technically still within date. And from a health perspective, take a closer look at the label. The sodium and nitrate levels in the cheaper cuts are often sky high. These chemicals keep the meat looking pink and appetizing. But eaten regularly, they pose real risks, especially for older shoppers with high blood pressure or heart conditions. Worse still, some products have been flagged for antibiotic residues from poorly regulated farming practices. Not every pack is a problem, but that's the uneasy part. You can't tell which ones are fine and which aren't, because every package looks perfectly normal. The convenience is real. The low price is real. But what's inside? And what it leaves behind in your body? Maybe something no one tells you, and you might not realize until it's far too late. Yellowstone baked beans. There's nothing more classic in an American meal than a can of baked beans. A few slices of meat, a piece of bread, a scoop of Yellowstone beans. And dinner is simple, quick, and thoughtless. Just over $1 sweet smoky easy for all ages to enjoy. But one detail a Walmart employee shared has made plenty of people take a second look at this seemingly harmless staple. At some stores, Yellowstone baked beans aren't stored properly after they're put on display. Even though it's canned food, the beans often sit near the entrance, where sunlight hits and temperatures fluctuate all day. According to employees, that's why they've heard complaints from customers. Strange smells, liquid that seemed slightly fermented, or cans that were puffed up, even though they were still within date. Another red flag, these beans are loaded with sugar, far more than most other brands. A single small can packs nearly 15 grams of sugar. The same as a mini soda. It's not something you see called out on the front of the label, but a glance at the ingredients list tells the story: corn syrup, molasses, and a lineup of sweeteners. For anyone with diabetes, heart disease, or high blood pressure, that harmless side dish isn't so harmless after all. One employee even admitted they'd seen shipments come in with Yellowstone cans, showing rust around the lids. Yet the cans still made it onto shelves after a quick wipe down. Why? Because the packaging wasn't technically damaged and the cans weren't expired, but anyone paying close attention might notice the liquid inside looked cloudier, the taste a bit tangier. A sure sign the quality had already slipped. When you grab a can of beans because it's cheap and familiar, you rarely think you're taking a risk. But sometimes the things you toss in your cart without a second thought hide problems you can't see from the outside. And what frustrates people most isn't just the lower quality. It's the feeling that they're being kept in the dark, all while trying to stretch every dollar in a time of rising prices. White bread and packaged bread. Many people grab white bread simply because it's cheap. A loaf for under $2, soft, fragrant, convenient. Perfect for breakfast, a quick school sandwich, or to go alongside soup for dinner. It all seems fine, but fine is only on the surface. Inside, according to some Walmart employees, this is one item they would never bring home to their own families. The first reason the shelf life is short, but quietly stretched. Some employees admit white bread often gets cycled back to the discount rack just days before it expires. More than once, they've seen staff rotate stock, pushing older loaves to the back, bringing the fresher ones forward. So customers don't grab the ones already starting to spot with mold. Second, the bread looks big, but what you actually get is almost nothing. Many cheap white bread brands use refined flour mixed with softeners and leavening agents that make the loaf look plump but leave it almost devoid of real nutrition. A loaf might have 20 slices but provide virtually no fiber, protein, or minerals. The things older adults rely on for blood sugar stability and digestion. Here's something most people miss. Many of these breads are made with bleached flour, wheat processed with chemicals to whiten and refine it. That process makes the bread look prettier and softer, but strips away most of its natural nutrients. And of course, you won't see that spelled out clearly on the label. Then there's the packaging. Some batches have been spotted with torn plastic wraps or weak seals, causing bread to dry at the edges or worse, trap moisture and grow subtle mold. But because the packaging is clear and there's no obvious green fuzz, most customers take it home without a second thought. The problem isn't that eating white bread is bad. The problem is this: you think you're buying something cheap, but you're really getting nothing more than a fleeting feeling of being full. When money's tight, people reach for what's good enough. But with cheap packaged white bread, what you're tossing into your cart might just be a loaf of empty white fluff. Empty in quality and empty in any real value for your health. Tomato ketchup. A bottle of ketchup is a staple in the refrigerators of millions of American households. It goes with hamburgers, fries, hot dogs, even gets stirred into sauces. Kids love it for the sweetness, adults for the convenience. And at Walmart, ketchup is one of the top-selling items week after week. But as someone once said, the more familiar something is, the easier it is to overlook. And with ketchup, that very familiarity has kept people from realizing they're eating something that hardly resembles tomato anymore. According to a few insider employees, what makes them hesitant to buy Walmart's cheapest ketchup isn't the taste, it's the sugar content. A medium bottle can contain up to 20 to 25% sugar or sugar derivatives, especially high fructose corn syrup. This syrup is cheaper than regular sugar, thickens the sauce, and boosts sweetness. But it's also a culprit many doctors warn against, linked to obesity and metabolic disorders, especially for older adults. Check the label sometime. Tomatoes often aren't even the first ingredient. Corn syrup is. That says that all the tomato flavor you think you're tasting actually comes from sugar, vinegar, and flavorings. Some have even joked, "We're really just dipping fries into red syrup." Harsh, maybe, but not entirely wrong. There's another small detail employees in stocking shared sometimes Walmart slashes prices on certain ketchup batches. Not because of a producer promotion, but because the bottles are being rebranded nearing the end of their shelf life or have sat in storage for too long. They're still within the printed expiration date, but the quality isn't the same as it was on day one. Customers don't notice, because the label looks fresh and the seal is still tight. What's more, most people think of ketchup as just for flavor, but end up using it every single day. A squeeze on a sandwich, another on fries, then a drizzle into salad. The sugar piles up quietly, meal after meal, and that's especially dangerous for older adults trying to keep blood pressure or blood sugar in check. In a time when prices are soaring, everyone's clinging to those familiar, budget-friendly staples. But sometimes the cheapest, most familiar thing on the shelf is the one worth questioning most. Not everything red is truly tomato, and not everything should stay in our diets just because it's been on the table since we were kids. Cheap canned chicken and beef stew. On the list of things that should always be in the pantry, canned chicken and beef stew are no-brainers. No heavy cooking, just pop the lid and you're ready to eat. Especially now when fresh food prices just keep climbing. And sure enough, Walmart's cheap canned chicken and beef stew are always on the shelves, sometimes even on deep discount, tempting shoppers to grab a few cans to stock up. But here's a truth shared by employees in the storage department: these products actually have a surprisingly high return rate even when they haven't expired. Why? Because when customers open them, they're hit with a foul, rancid smell. Sometimes the liquid inside is cloudy or even thick and creamy, almost spoiled. Some buyers have complained they suspect the meat was already bad at the canning stage, or that it wasn't kept cold enough in the shipping warehouses. Another source of frustration: the quality inside doesn't match the picture on the label. The canned chicken often turns out to be mostly skin and mushy scraps, while the beef stew is thin and watery with just a few tiny chunks of meat floating around like it's been watered down. The issue isn't just low quality, it's the sense of trust being traded for a low price. As ingredient and shipping costs climb, many companies choose to keep prices steady but quietly cut corners: less meat, more liquid, fewer vegetables, or swapping real chunks of meat for ground-up filler. One employee even shared that with certain batches of beef stew, they had to check each can carefully because they'd found slight bulging lids. A telltale sign the contents were starting to ferment. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, the whole batch is either sent back to the warehouse or quietly moved to the clearance section with no explanation given to customers. In a time when saving money is everyone's priority, people want food that's cheap and convenient. But those $2 cans can teach you a hard lesson. If it's cheap but inedible, you're still wasting your money. And what's worse than wasted money is the disappointment. The feeling that your already humble meal has been ruined by products that didn't live up to the promise on the label. And in choices like these, what erodes consumer trust isn't just bad taste. It's the feeling they weren't told the truth in the first place. Walmart frozen pizza. Frozen pizza at Walmart is one of the quickest, most convenient options out there. 10 minutes in the oven, no prep, no mess. At just over $3. It sounds like a deal you can't pass up, but behind that round box is a story that many Walmart employees can't help but roll their eyes at. Some employees have flat out admitted they avoid Walmart's frozen pizza for one simple reason: the crust is considered the worst in the entire store. Thick, dry, and cardboard-like if you don't bake it perfectly. And even when you do bake it perfectly, it's still tough to chew. Some brands use pre-mixed dough that's been frozen for months, so when it bakes, the edges get hard and brittle while the center turns mushy, almost like raw dough. And the toppings. That's where many customers say they feel a little tricked. A BBQ chicken pizza looks loaded on the box, but when you open it, you'll find just a few tiny shreds of chicken the size of your fingernail with a streaky smear of sauce. Cheese. The heart and soul of any pizza is often swapped out for a cheese-like product made from vegetable oil, milk powder, and flavoring. Sounds okay on paper, but when you bake it, it doesn't melt. It doesn't stretch. It just puddles like plastic. Here's something most people don't know. Cheap frozen pizza is packed with sodium. That's how they keep it tasty despite using bargain bin ingredients. A medium pizza can have 900 to 1200 milligrams of salt, almost 60% of the daily recommended intake. Pair that with soda fries or chips, and you're flooding your body with more salt than you think. Employees from the frozen section have also shared that some batches of pizza sit stacked for too long, or in freezers where the temperature fluctuates, causing a thin layer of ice to form on the surface. Customers don't notice, but when you bake it, the dough turns soggy, the toppings clump up, and the texture is ruined. Worse, still, pizzas that broke in transit, split crusts, crushed edges, often still end up on the shelf, sold like nothing happened. Pizza used to be the food of togetherness, sharing convenience. But with this bargain bin frozen version, a lot of people are putting it back in the freezer aisle and reaching for a bowl of microwaved noodles instead. Cheap microwave popcorn. Movie night, game night, or just a craving for something to snack on? Microwave popcorn has always been the go-to choice. At just $1 to $2 a bag, it puffs up in minutes, smells buttery, tastes crunchy, and feels effortless. But the very same cheap popcorn bags sold at Walmart are exactly what many employees quietly steer clear of. One even admitted they tried it just once to see and never touched it again. Because the smell that came out of the microwave wasn't buttery at all. It smelled like melted plastic mixed with chemicals. The issue starts with the fat used inside the bag. To keep costs low, many brands use hydrogenated oils or artificial butter flavoring, a blend of industrial vegetable oils and synthetic flavors. When heated at high temperatures, these compounds can release diacetyl, a chemical once linked to severe lung inflammation from long-term inhalation. The condition became so notorious it even earned a nickname in the industry: popcorn lung. Of course, eating it once won't harm you, but if you're popping a bag a few times a week, or even nightly, the buildup becomes a whole different story. And in a time when more people are leaning on quick, cheap, easy foods, those little bags are being used a lot more often than you think. There's also the quality control problem. Employees in the stocking department have noted that some batches of cheap popcorn have been returned because the seams on the bag split open, or the inner lining peeled away. When that happens, the kernels don't pop evenly, leaving burnt smells, clumps, and half-popped bits. It's not common, but it shows how shaky quality checks can be for these bargain bin snacks. And here's something few people notice. Many of these cheap microwave popcorn bags pack 300 to 500 milligrams of sodium per serving, plus artificial colors, anti-caking agents, and corn syrup. Corn. Combine that with a soda or some chips, and you've got a blood pressure and blood sugar spike combo. Especially risky for older adults. In a time when everything is getting more expensive, it's tempting to reach for something cheap. Something that makes a night feel full and comforting. But cheap in the way that's buttery on the outside, worry on the inside doesn't belong in anyone's kitchen. Because when it comes to your health, you shouldn't gamble. Not even for a bag of popcorn that costs less than $1. Canned 100% juice drinks. Sounds healthy, doesn't it? That little phrase, 100% juice, instantly puts people at ease, especially parents, or anyone trying to stick to a healthier diet. But if you've ever picked up a carton of juice at Walmart, especially those 100% juice boxes priced under $2, you might want to flip it over and read the back label before you believe the front. Several Walmart grocery clerks have quietly pointed out that many of these 100% juices are really just reconstituted concentrates. Concentrate mixed back with filtered water, plus a splash of flavoring to make it taste fresh again. That's perfectly legal. Technically, it is 100% juice by definition, but it misleads shoppers into thinking they're getting something fresh and natural. Take grape juice, apple juice, or those big cartons of orange juice. They're rarely fresh. They come from concentrate that's been heated, processed, and stored for months to extend shelf life. The result: nearly all the natural vitamin C is gone and the flavor muted and dull. To fix that, manufacturers quietly add natural flavorings and color, so you think it's the same. But here's the kicker. The sugar levels are staggering. Some of these cheap 100% juice boxes contain 28 to 35 grams of sugar per serving, as much or more than a can of soda. And because it's labeled as no added sugar, people think it's safe, even healthy. One Walmart logistics worker admitted that these juice cartons sit in storage longer than almost anything else, up to 12 months, which means by the time you buy it, the juice is technically fine to drink, but the taste is off. Slightly sour, oddly sweet with that weird, what is that aftertaste? With prices climbing everywhere, cheap juice sounds like a smart buy. But if that bargain leaves you chugging more sugar than your body can handle, or worse, convinces you you're making a healthy choice while quietly undermining your heart health and blood sugar, That's not saving money. That's spending it in all the wrong ways. In a world full of half-truths, that 100% juice label needs a skeptical eye, not blind trust just because it sounds good. Mainstays frozen meals. When life gets too busy and fresh food keeps getting more expensive, plenty of people turn to frozen dinners as the easiest fix. Walmart's own brand. Mainstays is marketed as the budget choice with meals priced around just $1 to $2 each. But behind that price tag are some red flags, the kind that even insiders hesitate over. Several Walmart freezer section employees quietly admit Mainstays meals get returned more than almost any other frozen food. The complaint's bland taste, meals that look nothing like the picture on the box. Or worse, leaky seals, cracked trays, uneven ice, all pointing to shaky handling and storage. One warehouse worker went further. These meals are mass-produced with a cut every corner possible formula. That means cheap fillers, tiny portions, and veggies that are there mostly for color, not nutrition. Inside the box, customers say the meat's dry and rubbery, the pasta's mush, and the sauce is little more than salty brown water. And it's not just about taste. For older shoppers, the sodium and preservatives are the bigger concern. A single Mainstays meal can pack up to 900 milliliters of sodium, nearly half the recommended daily limit. Add in artificial flavors, colorings, and shelf life extenders, and it's clear what you're really eating isn't just dinner. It's an experiment in cost cutting. Sure, there are nights when tossing something in the microwave feels like salvation. But when convenience comes bundled with nutritional compromise, long-term health trade-offs, and the slow erosion of what real food should taste like, is it really worth it? Even employees have noticed Mainstays isn't displayed front and center in the freezer aisle. It's usually down low off to the side, the spot where only shoppers hunting for the cheapest option will even see it. That says something about how much trust these meals actually have even among Walmart regulars. And when you've reached the age where health matters as much as the price tag, simply filling your stomach isn't enough. What matters is what you're eating, and whether it's actually worth even the few dollars you're paying. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the rising prices. It's not knowing what's the right choice anymore. The foods we assume are safe, simple, and convenient may quietly be the ones trading away your health and trust one bite at a time. We're sharing this not to scare you, but to give you that extra moment to pause before dropping something in the cart. Because not everything cheap is truly saving you money, especially in a world where more and more things are made faster, cheaper, and not nearly as good as they used to be.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.